welcome back to pixelprojectradio. This is part 3 of 4 of our Final Fantasy Tactics analysis. It's a beautiful fall evening. The day of recording, the air is crisp, the temperature is perfect for sweaters, and how better to spend it than cooped up inside of a room recording a podcast. And sharing my sentiments and back again are Chris and Nomad from Consoles and Stuff and the Retro Wildlands, respectively. How's it going, fellas?
Oh, it is going wonderfully. Nice and cozy here. It's nice and warm here in my room, and I'm glad to be spending some time with you two gentlemen. Part 3 of a 4-part series. This is going to be good.
Yeah, Florida didn't get the memo that it was supposed to be fall, and it's still 90 degrees outside, and everything is awful, and everything is Florida.
Oh, man.
Classic. Last time we left off at the end of Chapter 2, so let's go ahead and dive right in. We're starting with Chapter 3, The Valiant. Real quick, let's have a discussion on pronunciation based on some conversations happening in the Discord and based on some stuff I figured out. Wanted to touch on 2 things real quick. Firstly, I want to correct myself, and correct is maybe a strong word. I don't think I was clear in the last episode. When we were talking about delita, I had mentioned that, in Japanese there's no stresses. It's probably delita. That's incorrect. So I checked out the Tactics Wiki to see how it was spelled, and it would indeed be delita. And that's because in Japanese, they can elongate vowel sounds. You see this sometimes in like loan words like coffee, email, things like that, and names as well. This isn't to stress anything. It's just to make them sound more like they would in another language. And I had mentioned that Japanese doesn't stress things. That's not entirely true, but it's not false either. Japanese is a pitch accent language, whereas English is a stress accent language. We wouldn't say that we're going to go record an album. We would say we're going to record an album. We don't go to the grocery store for fresh produce. We go for produce, right? You change the stress, you can change the word's meaning entirely. Japanese, it's not like that. It's pitch accent based. So you take, the words for rain and sweet. They're both spelled with the same syllables, a-me. It just depends on whether you go up, ame, or down, ame. That changes the meaning. There is a little bit of implied stress there, but not a lot. And of course you do in spoken language, right? You get some stressing, emphasis. You need it. Everybody does. Language is alive. But what I meant to say before is that it's not a stress-based language. So all this to say, delita, yes, in the Japanese is darita. It would be said the same as delita. That was my bad. Next, this was a discussion that started in the Discord. The discussion of Marquis. Marquess or Marquis. I think we all here, we kind of settled on Marquis, yes?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so one of the Discord members, Jam, pointed out, and Jam has a French partner, I believe, and they said that it should be Marquis. So that, I had done a little digging beforehand, but I did a little more digging, and it turns out the short of it is everybody's correct. Cambridge Dictionary has both Marquis and Marquis as pronunciations that are acceptable. Merriam-Webster, I think, has both. They definitely have Marquis. But Marquis, is the French pronunciation. Marquis is closer to German. It's sometimes spelled Marquess, Quess. My read of this is that, the quasi-Old English that Tactics is using is probably more influenced by Germanic lexicography because, English is highly, highly based on Germanic language. German and Latin, those are the 2 big ones for English. And assuming Ivalice doesn't take place in a French-inspired world, that would make sense to me. It's also a fictional world, so, who's to say? I think the short of it is both are correct. I know the voiced version in Ivalice Chronicles says Marquis, but, you can say it however you'd like. A Marquis by any other name, etc., etc., etc. Nobody can tell you you're wrong, but you also can't tell anyone else they're wrong. Unless you decide to record and produce your own podcast.
Good callback.
Thank you.
Yes.
That's why I get paid the big buck. Buck singular.
Ooh, Singular.
Sorry for blathering on so much so quickly, fellas.
No, all good. It's good. It's good and worthy conversation for sure.
Definitely.
So let's jump into Chapter 3, The Valiant. So this is where the game begins to take a bit of a turn, a bit of a swerve from political drama into more of a fantasy setting. So what's your read on this? There are a lot of complaints from folks online saying that they wish this didn't happen, that they wish it was more grounded in the realistic political setting. I have mixed feelings on this, but I want to ask the two of you what you think first.
So I think on the last episode, I made my feelings pretty well known. I don't hate it that it went JRPG, but I would have preferred that it would have stayed political, grounded in reality, even if there are mages and summoners and all that magic Final Fantasy stuff. I don't hate it because I think it's really cool that you get to fight, a zodiac monsters, basically demons possessing human bodies. I think it's really cool, but also it feels a little bit out of place and a little bit jarring when you put it against the backdrop of what has been happening in Final Fantasy Tactics up until the point where they start appearing.
Yeah, I could see that point. What about you, Nomad? How are you feeling?
See, here's the problem, I think, at least with me. Like, I keep flip-flopping back and forth, and I feel like I'm effectively in the middle of the whole idea here. Because on one hand, I actually kind of like how we go towards more of a fantasy setting and kind of go down this route. Reason being, if you choose to look at it a certain way, this does kind of expand the story's scope in a pretty interesting way, revealing that all of this political corruption that we're seeing is being subtly manipulated by supernatural forces. Like, there's something a little bit more unique at play here. Right. It adds an extra layer to it, which is great. But then the other side of that, you could look at it as this demon twist kind of undercut the grounded realism that we've been so accustomed to up to this point. So it's two sides of a coin. But back to something I really like about it, all of the supernatural elements really tied Ivalice's, like, I look at it as tying all of Ivalice's human sins that we've seen in the game. I'm talking greed, ambition, faith. Tying it to something cosmic even makes it more biblical than the story's been kind of going. So I kind of like how it's even more grandiose in that way. But then you can counter that with another point, too, where it's just one more layer of intrigue and one more thing that you have to keep track of in this already convoluted story. So sure. I am right in the middle on whether I like it or I don't like it. And I guess it just depends on my mood, to be completely honest with you guys.
I think I agree with both of you more or less. I at first had the inkling like, I wish this would just be political. But a couple things like, and it's interesting you use the word biblical. That's going to come into play heavily today. I don't mind the JRPG-ness of it all. I think it's pretty cool. And, it's a Final Fantasy game. Every Final Fantasy game has to have magic and crystals, right? It's Final Fantasy. It has to. I also, keep in mind and I'm saying this to myself as much as anybody, this game was made for younger people, teens, older teens, kids. So having a heavily political sort of drama might not have kept their attention quite as well. It just would have been a departure from what the game's identity fundamentally is and what the company's and what the series identity ultimately is. I like it. I think it's perfectly fine. I'm also not convinced that it just being political would have been as good of a story, to be quite honest with you. But yeah, we're going to see a lot of that today. Speaking of fantasy, we're going to go right into a meeting that's about taxes and economy.
God, I want to the economy.
Perfect. Great segue. We're at Fort Veselat. Duke Oltana and a council of dudes are discussing the difficulties of war. The supplies, they're scarce. The people, they can't survive. People are moving out to Lazalia under Duke Larg. What's interesting, though, they're talking about the destruction. They're talking about how people are dying. The Marquis is there, and he says this. He says, the number of casualties does not concern me, nor does the depletion of our stores. These were to be expected. So, their people are dying, and they're just like, yeah, man, who cares? What are we doing to fund this war? You know, it's vicious. And, you know, quite frankly, this is how the world works, you know?
It's very harsh when it comes out that way, but at the same time, it is laced with that element of truth. Like, I remember when we got to this point when I was a kid playing this game, like, I immediately took what he was saying as something like, oh, he's evil, for sure. He absolutely doesn't care about anything but himself or the fact that people are dying and it's just trying to further his own ambitions. But as I'm older now, all he's speaking is just the harsh truth of war, and it's pretty heavy.
Yeah, not to say that, you know, we condone it. This is an anti-war podcast, but... You know,
oh, yeah, thank you for saying that. I condone none of this.
But yeah, you know, the people are trying to leave, so they want to tighten security. They're trying to fund the war effort, so they're going to raise taxes. The people already can't afford to live. There's a drought. There's terrible weather. The crops are shit. Everything is going nuts, and they don't want to stop the war, you know? The only person that's speaking of peace is Count Sidolphus Orlando. This is our Cid. This is our Cid of the game with the nickname the Thunder God. He wants to end the war. You know, everybody's suffering. Duke Larg is suffering just as much. Instead of laughing at him like somebody else at the table did, we should, you know, band together. This is how we get the support of the people, you know, show a united front. And they kind of chastise him. They say, your title is ill-earned, Thunder God Cid. Your gentle words would sooner stir a breeze. It's pretty good. That's pretty good. And, you know, Duke Altana is basically like, hey, man, you know, enough with the peace talk or we're going to have a problem, you know. Pretty cool. Pretty sinister beginning to part 3. But we get out of there just as quick. We go to Golland and we meet a man named Orran. Cid had mentioned him. He's his eyes on the outside, right? They're the southern sky. They're in... what town is the southern sky in? What province? What city? Is it Zeltenia?
I thought it was Zeltenia.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Okay. Duke Larg is in Lazalia, right? That's where people are running to. Orran is Cid's eyes in Lazalia. He's kind of like a spy, sort of. He's also his adopted daughter. Adopted son. Great. We're doing great. He's trapped on a roof. We're going to protect him. This battle is not, like, difficult because of the fighting. It's difficult because of the rooftop navigation for me. I couldn't get to Orran in time to, like, protect him. It took me, I think, twice to do this battle.
I had to change some of my units to archers to be able to do this battle because I didn't have any unit with enough ignore terrain to get through it.
Oh, yeah.
So I just had 2 archers to take down the bad guy before he killed Homeboy.
Yeah, that's the way to go. I also was rolling Ramza as a knight. I had a black mage. I wasn't doing myself any favors by using classes that have low movement. That's my fault. We're going to get to an even worse protect mission a little bit later. This is just your introduction to Orran. Him and Ramza sort of meet. He thanks you for saving him. They shake hands, and we're off. To Lazalia specifically. Ramza confronts Zalbaag. He's writing, like when you get in there, he's writing in a book with a little quill. I love that animation. It looks so good.
So that just goes right back to all those interesting animations that we see, maybe the one time. I think, Chris, you mentioned last episode or the one prior. I think Zalbaag himself was drinking wine one time. We never see it again. It's great.
It was the older brother pouring a cup of wine.
That's right.
That's so good.
Yeah, it really adds to it. Terrific. Ramza is pleading with Zalbaag. He's petitioning to stop the war. Can you not end this fighting? We Beowulfs have ever fought to defend the people, not simply the crown. And now we fight for no more than our own glory. All of this war has been plotted to some unseen purpose. Dukes Larg and Goltana, only puppets in some shadow play. Zalbaag does not take this well. He is really unhappy that Ramza is accusing their brother. And I think this is, I think this is the point where I realized, oh, Zalbaag's really not in on any of this. Right? This is like Larg, Goltana, Dystarg, they're doing something separate. Zalbaag is just not, he's in the dark on all of this.
Yeah, I picked up on that pretty quick, and I think this is where Zalbaag truly started to endear himself to me, I think, because he strikes me in this moment as someone who's doing what he feels is the right thing to do, regardless of all the things that's happening around him, the things that he's not quite seeing. So I felt very sorry for him in a sense, and I couldn't bring myself to dislike him. Ramza's kind of doing the same thing right now in kind of his own way, right? He's more or less fully estranged from the Beowulf house, and he's now really kind of trying to stand on his own 2 feet and do his own thing, what he views is right, the best way he can do it. So there's no standout good guys here. Zalbaag's doing what he thinks is right. Ramza's doing the same thing. It's kind of interesting, but at the same time, kind of heartbreaking in a sense. 2 men just trying to do it right, but not quite.
Right, exactly. Like I said, Zalbaag doesn't take this well, that Ramza accuses Dystarg of kidnapping the princess, taking part in this shadow play. He says, "Do you stand here accusing our brother of having some hand in this business with the princess?" Ramza's incredulous. He says, "So you knew not of this, Zalbaag?" He replies, "Who have you become, that you do not trust your own family? What have you ever done to inspire my trust? The mistake was my own. Until today, I had looked at you as a true brother. But your mother's common blood forever stains you common. You are not fit to bear the Beowulf name." This is harsh. Like, Ramza is even taken aback. He says, "Surely you jest," or something to that effect. This is really harsh. This reminds me of, when I think all of us did this as children when we're in a fight with a friend and we just get so angry and filled with like vitriol, and we insult them with information or things we know will hurt them, even though we don't mean it. We just want to be mean. This is what that reminds me of. I didn't ever peg Zalbaag. Like, it seemed like Zalbaag had a better relationship with Ramza than Dystarg, at least up to this point. So it doesn't strike me as him really meaning this. It just seems like he is so hurt by Ramza's accusations that he just wants to be mean.
I can see that. But also, we don't really know Zalbaag that well, so who knows, maybe this is a flash of elitism showing on his part, because he is pure-blooded Beowulf, whatever that means, and then Ramza's just half commoner.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good point. Under this in the notes, I had wrote that I'm unsure if Zalbaag was truly unaware, or if he's just feigning ignorance, feigning innocence. Mild spoiler, we do come to learn that Zalbaag really doesn't have a hand in what's going on. He really does have the wool pulled over his eyes by Dystarg. We don't really get to question him. A northern knight comes in and says, "Hey, Thunder God Sid has broken through our defenses," and they have to go deal with that. So they get out of there. We get out of there too. We get into a battle. We speak to Alma first. She's really sad that we're leaving. We tell her about Delita being alive. We tell her about Dystarg having part in the abduction of the princess, Delita, and of Titra's death as well. But we don't have much time to talk to her. Confessor Luciana Zalmor comes in. He's a member of like the Inquisition squad. Anybody want to take it? Anybody? Okay, I'll do it. Nobody ever expects it. The Inquisition. Yeah, he's come to bring us before the office on charges of the murder of Cardinal Delacroix and suspicion of heresy. This, if we don't comply and don't come, we'll be executed as a heretic. If we go, we're going to get tried as a heretic and also executed. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. And it's just like the opening said, history is going to brand Ramza as a heretic. That's the church's staunch position, and this is why.
Yeah, I picked up on that very fast and remembered the opening, and I immediately knew that Ramza, at least for history's sake, was more or less screwed at this point. But tell you what, tried our hardest to fight back, especially in this battle, to see if maybe we could change his fate. But we know that's not going to happen, unfortunately.
I remember Ramza being branded a heretic, but I didn't put 2 and 2 together when I was a kid that it was because technically he did kill the cardinal, but the church didn't know the reason why. They probably just stumbled across his dead body and somebody said, "Oh, I saw Ramza leaving this building."
That's one of my favorite wrinkles in this story is we're going to learn very soon that the church as a whole just isn't aware of the power of the Arasite. They don't know that it turns you into a hell monster. Like, they really think it's a symbolic power. It's only a few in the church that know what's going on. That is so cool.
Right. And I remember, him being branded a heretic and going through the game, Ramza the Heretic. But I didn't understand why until now. And it just seems blind on the church's part. Because what if they do try him? What are they going to do? Not believe him? They're just going to brand him a heretic and kill him anyways. So I feel like this is the point where Ramza's pressed up against a wall and he has to figure out what he wants to do and he needs to commit. Otherwise, he's done.
Yeah, exactly. And think of it too, like if the church tries Ramza as a heretic, that's only going to make them look good in the public's eye, right? They're taking care of business. They're standing strong against those who would blaspheme. It's just going to make them seem like they're in control and have the people's the people's well-being at heart. So yeah, we're in a tough spot here. Backs up against a wall, as you said, literally a bit in this fight. This is my first battle with the dancer, by the way. I grinded for this class for quite a while. They're fine, their accuracy is a bit low on a lot of the dances. They're okay. I've been running with a bard dancer combo for like debuffs to the enemy, buffs to my guys. That's pretty good. I'm having an okay time. They're both geomancers too, so like if they need to fight, they've got that capability. I don't know. It's all right.
It's a pretty good way to use those units. I like the dancers for what they are. They can hit any enemy anywhere on the map for status damage or just regular damage. But you're right, the accuracy at which those abilities hit is very unreliable depending on the type of battle you are. Unless there was a point, and I think I mentioned to you too, Rick, I ran 2 dancers at once. That was interesting. I got more hits in that way. I got more debuffs in that way, but then I was one less offensive unit. But either way, what I'm getting at is I don't know if they were worth the grind, but I'm glad you got to experience them though.
Yeah, it's fun. Dancers are in the PS1 version, right, Chris?
They should be, because I'm looking up a guide on how to unlock them, because honestly, I haven't unlocked them. I don't think I've put enough levels. I might be just like a level under on each one of the previous jobs to unlock them. But I believe it's a female-only class.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty sure Bard is male only.
Okay, then that would make sense. All right, then I think I'm turning Agrias into a dancer.
Nice.
So we do this fight. Alma, I can't remember if Alma takes part in this or not, but afterwards, Alma mentions that she has seen an Arasite at the monastery before, and she's going to sweet talk her way into coming with us to try to explain things to Zalbaag. Ramza is adamant, like, you're not coming. She turns around in a huff and crosses her arms. I love that little animation. But she brings up a good point. She's like, Ramza, you're a heretic now. Everybody knows it. You're being tried now. You're not going to get into the monastery without me. She says that she's going to be labeled one now, but she just took part in this little confrontation, so that word's not going to travel. So, we need her help. So she's going to come too. She has a nice little line as they leave. She says, and when they do come for me, the church, do you think Dystarg will protect me? He would never do anything that might endanger House Beowulf. He sure wouldn't.
Dun, dun,
No, he would
dun.
not.
We get up to the monastery. This barrage into the end of chapter 3 is really, really good. This is one of the most exciting parts of the game. We get to the monastery. Things are grim. White mages lie dead everywhere. Elder Simon is gravely injured. And he tells us who's here hunting the stones. High Confessor Marcel of the church and his followers. They seek to restore the church to prominence. He says, as a first step, they have set Dukes Larg and Goltana against one another to whittle down their military might. The longer the fighting lasts, the weaker the Dukes become, and the more the people lose their faith in the crown. They look to gather the Zodiac Stones to gain power and support of the people. And like we said, they don't know that they turned them into Lukavi. So at the center of all of this, it's not just the northern and southern skies fighting, it's not just the two dukes. The church has been putting their finger in the pie, stirring the pot, whatever metaphors you'd like to mix. They're the ones behind this, pulling the strings. They incited the fighting. They did it purposefully so they could look like the good guys. We called it from the beginning, church bad.
And this right here kind of goes back to when we were having the discussion of whether or not we like the departure from the more political setting of the story. When you word it that way, this is where I think I really, really do like it, because now you have a very clear villain, you have a very clear enemy, and it makes political sense that the church, at least in this setting, would do what they're doing to try to influence the tide of not just the war, but for history. So I think for me at this moment, it's like, this is where the plot really thickens, but in a great way.
Right, exactly. And everything is politically motivated. The fantasy JRPG stuff is sort of adjacent to it. At the core, it's the church is vying for power. They want power in society. That's what they're doing. They don't know, like we said, they don't know the Auracite will turn you into hell creatures. They think, to them, they're sacred relics from their version of the Bible, which we'll get into in a little bit, that hold symbolic power. They don't know that they're going to get turned into demons. Speaking of Auracite, Ramza is going to go take care of the followers of Marcel that are tearing shit up. So he decides to leave the Auracite, this very powerful and sought-after jewel, with Alma, his young sister who is not an adult, for safekeeping, which is just a fantastic move. Good job, Ramza.
Everything will be just fine.
She's also going to stay behind and look after Elder Simon. Realistically, like, somebody has to. So better her than Ramza. This is a cool series of battles. We're going through various levels of like the underground book storage and cellars of the monastery, stuff like that. One level has just a ton of bookshelves laid out in a design only a game designer would do, and one that would infuriate librarians. I had Mustadio and a chemist. They just stood on top of these bookshelves and were plinking down people's HP by shooting. Ramza was a monk, and I had a dragoon going through the aisles, fighting them. And I had a dancer as well here. She was dancing in the corner, bringing folks stuff down. She's just chilling back there. Fighting's going on, and she's doing the mambo. It's great.
This, now that you mention it, they're walkways connecting bookshelves. Bookshelves are connected by walkways from one side to the other. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. No library in the world is set up like this. None at all. Show me one. I would like to explore it. This is where we're introduced to Isolde here. For right now, we just, he's just a named bad guy. We don't know much about him right now, but he offers a perspective from the church. He says, Evilise lists Ramza. Listing is like when a ship kind of moves back and forth like it's going to tip over, He's doing a whole ship metaphor here. He says, Evilise lists Ramza and threatens to founder. Should we fail to right her course, this storm will claim her. The crown is rotten, the nobility corrupt. They must be made to pay. The people deserve their justice. Help us deliver it to them, Ramza. Join us as your once friend Delita has. So Delita's with the church. We know this now. And I mean, this is, tale as old as time, right? The church wants to take power. They're one corrupt government. They're just replacing another corrupt government, except this corrupt government wants to look after its own, whereas the current corrupt government only looks after its own. So the world turns, right? So it goes. It's also clear here, too, that Isolde doesn't know what the Auracite is capable of. He just believes that the church is righteous. He doesn't know he's in a JRPG.
It's still interesting, even though we clearly know what is going on at this point, how we still come across people that are so duty-bound to what it is that they're doing or feel that they're doing the just right thing. Keeps back to what I had said before, there's no real true good or bad guys in this game, and I found myself endured to this character a little bit just because of that. I kind of felt bad for him in a sense. You don't know what you do, but you're doing it.
Yeah, it's the sign of mature writing when black and white isn't motivational, The villains don't twirl their mustaches and the heroes aren't clad in shining armor. Perspective is important, and everybody here has their own. Everybody thinks they're right, see other games that we've covered on the show that have played with perspective in this way. Pentiment probably, Lisa the Painful, tons of them. Mm-hmm. Really good stuff. Isolde, he gets away. And on the final level of these underground storage areas, he kidnaps Alma. Wiegraf and his men are here too. Wiegraf is back. He is out for blood, man. He wants our head on a platter. He's He's going to chop them off, and you know exactly what I mean when I say them. You get into a fight with them here. He immediately one-shots half of my party with Judgment Blade, which makes me try new classes and a new formation on the field. Immediate one-shot. Crazy. Am I alone in that? Did you guys also get one-shot here?
Yeah, I definitely did. But again, I turned on my trusty number one moose every single time, and it just took him down because, wow, what a fight.
Yeah, all I'll say is my controller's tolerance for grip force, I guess, was tested in this particular battle. I had a rough go of it too, and I ended up having to kind of reset myself up as well. But we know Wiegraf is a force to be reckoned with, and the game definitely wants to remind us of that. So for what it was, as frustrating as it was, he's definitely someone that you need to be wary of, and he puts it in practice. So anytime he appears from here on out, I was shaken a little bit.
Yeah, his is a righteous fury. Talk about believing what he's doing is correct. He just wants to avenge Milueda and, take down the corrupt nobility. And he sees us as the threat, as the villains. And, from a certain perspective, he's not wrong. It's like you said, Nomad, nobody is right or wrong truly. Well, there are some characters that are wrong. We'll see them soon. Isalud unfortunately gets away. He has Alma, takes her away on the chocobo. He kidnapped him. Wiegraf is out there, bloodied and beaten. This is, we don't get a ton of gore in this game. We see it here. We see it in a little bit. He is like dragging his body across the ground. Blood stains. His face is bloodied. Really, really terrific character model and sprite here. Great. He's dying. He's despairing. But the Arasite calls out to him and offers aid. And we shout like, no, don't do it, don't do it. He gives in. He says, help me. And he's transformed into the Lucavi Belial. I don't know. He's a four-armed, kind of wide, stocky, muscly, blue-bodied kind of guy with a ram's head. This is the Ares Zodiac. I thought this was going to be the fight, capital T, capital F, but it's not. Not for now. He will become the bane of our existence pretty soon, but for now he teleports away. And as he leaves, Elder Simon, his last breaths, he brings us a book. The Gospel of Germanique, the Scriptures of Germanique. This tells the story of Saint Ajora's disciples and Saint Ajora from a different perspective. So this is where we break for a second. This game, the Saint Ajora and the disciples, very clearly an allegory for Jesus and Christ's journey. It's been confirmed. It's not subtle at all, to the point where I'm pretty sure they go to a location in the scriptures called Golgotha, which is the hill where Jesus was crucified. It's not subtle at all. And the story of Saint Ajora is that his 12 disciples had the Zodiac Stones and they vanquished the Lucavi. They were, praised for keeping everybody safe. Saint Ajora stood up and spoke as an infant as soon as he was born, pointed out that, there was a plague coming, don't drink the well water. And when that came and the people that didn't and the people that believed him were the ones that survived, he was praised as a prophet, right? That's Saint Ajora. The Scriptures of Germanique is this game's version of the Gospel of Judas. The Gospel of Judas is one of the non-canonical scripts in Christian liturgy. And, the church is the one that deemed all of these heretical and non-canon, so take that for what you will. But the Gospel of Judas is very interesting. I've heard it called the one, if any of the Gospels are Gnostic, it's this one. Gnosticism tells that the God of the Old Testament is a false god, a lower god named Yaldabaoth that created the world, but it's of a lower order. The real God, like the invisible force, I don't remember what it's called. The real God is what humans ultimately need to get to with Gnostic, with knowledge. The Gospel of Judas shows Judas talking to Christ. Judas is the only one that knows that what Christ is, trying to guide this holy generation to the true God. It's not the God that they worship. That is a false God. Jesus is also very mean to his disciples in this book. It's a really cool thing. It's free to read on the internet. You should do it. But Germanique is that, the scriptures of Germanique is that exact tale. It is, how Germanique, how Saint Ajora was just a normal man, just no more divine than you or I think Ramza says. And what do you call it? Germanique, the man, was the one that betrayed Saint Ajora, right? It is as on the nose for the Christian story as anything in the world. But this scripture of Germanique, the Gospel of Germanique, if it comes to light, everybody, nobody will believe the church anymore. This will completely upend their religion. The general public will lose faith entirely. This will change everything. So, of course, the church wants this buried. The church wants nobody to know about this. And now it's in Ramza the Heretic's hands. And by the way, did you guys know that you could just go in and read stuff in the Chronicle? I did not know about that until right now. Even though it's staring at you in the face on the menu, I never went into it until this moment.
I had no idea that you could read the book in the Chronicle at all.
Well, you can't technically read it. You read Ramza's thoughts about reading it, and he just kind of summarizes everything. And it's multiple pages long, so I'm not going to read it. But yeah, it's you could read about every character. It tells you who dies where, what their allegiances are. I just never opened it until now.
Yeah, 'cause I didn't know anything about that. I thought the book was just a book of magic that would make the Aura site work. But I'm also playing the PlayStation 1 version, so who knows how much more of this story is fleshed out on the PSP version.
Yeah, it's a little bit more fleshed out on the PSP version. Not that I can call out specific instances. You just have to trust me. But I do remember, though, when I played on the PlayStation 1 version, I made it a point, once I discovered that you could look in the Chronicle and different entries would be added based on locations that you visited, different characters that you met. Not that any of it really stuck, obviously, but I really enjoyed doing a couple missions, going in and seeing if something in the Chronicle actually changed or was updated. And a lot of times it was. There'd be a base-or description for someone you'd meet, and then something story happens, and then something more gets added to it. I found it very interesting. It was hard to keep track of a lot of what was happening, though, really, especially when I was that young. But right. There's a lot in there. The only problem with that, though, and I guess it kind of depends on how you, as a gamer, look at this kind of thing, there's that I would have much rather have had a lot more of that told to me in gameplay as opposed to me going in and having to read it on my own. But if you don't read some of the finer details, it's not going to take away from the experience. It only enriches if you let it.
Yeah, exactly so. And you had mentioned, Nomad, you're playing the remastered version, the Ivalice Chronicles. You mentioned that it does something like in Final Fantasy 16, right, where it gives you a sort of rundown on what's going on.
Yes, correct. So you can, when you're on the world map, triangle, I think you can press, and it'll bring up a screen that'll kind of tell you where you're at in the story, what most recently has happened, and it actually gives you a map with pictures of all the major characters in the story up to that point, what they've done or what they're doing in the story, so you can kind of keep track of everybody. And using your shoulder buttons, you can go backwards in time or back to the present, and you can see kind of how events have moved. It's a really good way to keep track of the story if that's something you're really trying to do. Much better than either the PSP or the PlayStation 1 version. So the remaster's got a leg up on that for sure.
Very nice. Very, very cool. So Elder Simon dies. He gives us the scriptures. He dies. This is his act of contrition. He feels very guilty that he kind of aided and was complicit to this cover-up for the church. So we take him. We get out of there. We run into a man in white as we pass through Dorder. He understands that we've got the scriptures. This is a big deal. He tells us to come to Riovanes Castle with these scriptures if we want Alma to live. We're going to see this man again soon. But before we do, we get a nice little cutscene of Dolita and Ovelia. This is where their relationship is put on full display. And let's talk about what this is before we talk about their relationship. So he starts, he's needlessly sarcastic to her.
So here you are. They've been searching high and low for you. I do hope this day finds your Royal Highness in better spirits than those past.
Do not mock me. Please. I could not bear it.
He's mean, for no reason, and he apologizes, of course. She feels like a puppet. She couldn't even play her part enough to avoid bloodshed of many people. She's feeling lost. Delita reveals that he feels similarly.
I was given the wardrobe of a nobleman, and so I played the part, a puppet ever dancing for the amusement of patrons unseen. This wretched world does not reward endeavor. It is the patron and his troop who are receipt. Maggots grown fat on endeavor's course. Most men but play the part they're given. Most live and die not knowing they play a part at all. But I am past all that now. I am their unwitting puppet. No more! No more. I will exact from them the price of their gluttonous feast!
And just what is it you plan to do to them?
I will burn down this kingdom, and from its ashes build for you a new one, a kingdom worthy of you. I will show you a world where your light will outshine the sun, a world that will know no darkness.
He wants to burn it all down and build a new kingdom for Ovelia, for this fake Ovelia. So I've seen a lot of folks say that their relationship is kind of fast-tracked. It feels unbelievable. What do you two think? Do you remember feeling that way when you came across this? Do you feel that way now? What are you thinking regarding Delita and Ovelia?
I don't think it's fast-tracked because, between stages that you move in the map, days go by. So who's to say how long it has been that Delita and Ovelia have been traveling together? Or how often they talk or any of that. We might just be getting the cliff notes of their relationship.
Yeah, that's true. It's very hard to kind of figure out exactly what's happening here. And even when I was younger, and even going back through this again today as an adult, I still kind of feel torn, not just on their relationship being rushed or anything. I don't think it's that at all. What I'm torn on is like really what both of these people's true feelings are in these moments, and then the moments that'll be happening later in the chapter. Like where I was always stuck is Delita honestly protecting Ovelia because he cares about her and wants to do right by her, albeit maybe falling for her or being a little bit more closer to her, right? Or is he just plain using her? Does Ovelia even understand what is happening here? I mean, who really is this man? Delita, at this point in the game now, he's really beginning his major moves among the elite now. He's using his charisma, his cunning to gain the trust of multiple people in the church, the different nobility, it seems like. And it's very clear, at least to me at the time, it's very clear that he's playing his own game. He's starting to master this system that wronged him when he was just a commoner. Now he's figuring out how to play this game. But now that Ovelia is in this mix, what does that truly mean? Is he still playing a game and using her as a piece? Or is he truly feeling something for her and what it is that she could potentially bring to the kingdom? And I find that to be fascinating. So all that to say, I don't feel there's any way in hell that this is being forced and rushed. This is all very well thought out and very well written because you as the player can take it both different ways. And I like that.
I feel like him finding out that she was just a commoner that got stolen and placed in the royal family might have struck a chord that brought out that older brother, I gotta protect my little sister side of him. Because he wasn't able to protect Tetra, so now he has Ovelia. And I feel like if she would have been royalty, real royalty, he wouldn't have cared. But because he found out she's a commoner, then that's just the feeling that I get from him. I might be reading too much into it, or it might just be a plain old love story. He had reverse Stockholm syndrome.
No, you're right on the money. That's why I think in the beginning, it's totally understandable to think that he might be using her, because it seems that way, the way he speaks to her and the way he treats her early on, like when we save her at the waterfall, for example. Whereas now, it's like you said, Chris, he realizes, Delita does, that they're two kindred spirits, right? They're two wings on the same bird. They both feel like they've been used, out of place. They don't feel like their identity means anything outside of a puppet in a play. And that brings them together. And we see this is symbolized with the grass, the reed blowing that happens for a third time pretty soon later on. It's, they feel a kinship there. And, that's when he declares he's going to build a new kingdom for her here. We see a part of that. And by the way, I like what you said before too, Chris, that we don't know what's happening there. It's taking days for them to walk places. That's part of the compression of video game fiction. If they were to, show every single day, every hour, just as a sake of, building this relationship out completely, these games would be heinously long, just unsustainably long. They can't do that. So it asks a bit of imaginative work on us, the player. And I don't think that's a bad thing at all. It's just, it's like the battle system, right? These guys aren't walking on squares and taking turns fighting. It's just an abstraction for the sake of gameplay of what's actually going on. And then in your head, when you're thinking back, or as a kid, when you're playing it, you're like, oh man, he's coming in super quick and he jumped in the air. But what's actually happened is you're pressing attack on the menu, right? It's just, it's part of the medium. I don't think that's a bad thing at all. It trusts us to fill in the gaps that, we don't know how much they're talking when they're walking, and days and days and days go by. It's cool stuff. Speaking of Chris, Zeklaus Desert, we get a scene that Chris doesn't get in his version. Na boo boo. This is where we're saving a beast hunter boy named Luso from Final Fantasy Tactics A2. He's in the desert. He gets wrapped up in a monster fight with too many of them, and we come in to save him. Nomad, did you use Luso at all?
Funny enough, I did not. I never played Tactics A2, so I didn't really know who the character was, and his job, I believe, is more around the idea of poaching monsters, which poaching a monster kills the monster, and you either get their pelt that you can trade in for an item, or just get an item when you visit a poacher. For as much time as I put in this game, I used that mechanic by far the least, so he had nothing to offer me.
I agree with you. I don't know. He just feels like a slightly beefier version of a squire. Like his abilities are kind of the same as Ramza's squire abilities. I used him once and then I just kind of put him down. I'm not. And
I put him on the shelf just to say I had him. So welcome to my collection.
Yes. We move on to Grauch Heights. We run into some Southern Sky deserters. They insist they don't want any trouble. We don't want any trouble. And then they realize we're the heretic, and they're like, ooh. If we bring back the head of the heretic, it'll get a pricey sum, and we could return. And even though we went AWOL or did treason or whatever, they'll let us back because this is a just world, and surely that'll work. The government's army weighs the scales of justice honestly and fairly. Surely this will work. But they don't know that we have protagonist plot armor, so we kill them all.
That's right. That's what they get for wanting to do work just because they're going to get more money out of it.
See,
exactly.
You really shouldn't take pride in your job. Just skim by, do the bare minimum, and go home.
Right, or so you can slack off at work. We learned that lesson, I think, last episode.
Just get paid to kick your feet up and put them on the desk.
Truer words, my friend. Orran runs into us right after this. He was tasked with dealing with these deserters, but we did it for him. And he says he means us no harm. He is a more understanding character than most. He doesn't want to, take your bounty and bring you in. He understands the situation. He's also, like we said, this is where we learn that he's Cid's adoptive son. And he doesn't agree with what's going on with the fighting between the dukes anyway. Ramza asks him, hey, Cid was my dad's best friend. Just go back and tell him what's going on. Let him in on everything behind the scenes. Cid will help. And then we peace out of there. We get to Yadro, and that fella in white that told us to come with the scriptures is arguing here with the girl who's also in white. This is Marach and Rapha. I don't know about you two. I largely think this could have just been cut from the game. Like, I don't think it's bad, but I feel like what happens here could have been explained in another way. This just feels needless to me.
Yeah. It feels like padding. It ultimately doesn't do anything to push the story forward in any grand way.
Yeah, it feels like an episode of a Saturday morning cartoon that's like, action oriented, but it's just kind of sequestered and it doesn't have anything to do with anything.
It's kind of like having a villain of the week.
Yeah, yeah, kind of. Did either of you use Marach and Rapha? Oh, I guess spoiler alert, but they join our team eventually. Did either of you use them? I tried to use Rapha a little bit, but I don't know. She fell off for me pretty quickly.
No, and the discourse online is that they're worthless. Just put them in your party and forget about them. Now that I think about meeting them, there is a scene that shows a different side to the Aura site, which I'm sure you're going to get into in a bit.
Did you use these fellas, these folks, Nomad?
I really didn't, although there is one notable exception. I won't spoil this because this is very farther into the game. Maybe we'll talk about this probably next episode. Rapha's bravery is exceptionally low, which makes putting the treasure hunter movement ability on her very advantageous. That's where when you move around the field, if there's like a hidden item and you have that ability equipped, you'll be able to pull it out of the ground and claim it. You can find something common or there's something rare that might be there. The lower somebody's bravery is, for some reason, the higher chance you have of pulling the rare thing out of the earth, which makes her very valuable for a very specific end game dungeon that you can go through. That was the only time I used her, and I hated having to use her because I never used her and I had to spend time leveling her up using abilities that I didn't care for. So if my feelings are not abundantly clear, I did not use her much.
Yeah. Well, here's their scenario. Marach and Rapha, they were taken in, quote unquote, by Grand Duke Barrington when they were young children. Rapha aims to run away now. She knows the truth of the Duke. He burnt down their entire village himself on purpose to take them in because the two of them have these innate, intense magical prowess. Marach doesn't believe her. He doesn't abide this. He slaps her. She says that he, quote, knows of it and even still won't take her side. More on that in a little bit. But our team approaches Ramza and crew. We're like, hey, man, what the hell? You told us to come to Riovanes. And he's like, I was only going to deliver a message, but, fuck it. I'll hunt you right now for the reward. Rapha defects from him. She fights by our side. So we need to protect her. And she promptly dies on turn 2. Amazing.
It was perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
Her defense is quite low. I had to do this battle a couple of times because she kept getting just murked.
Yet, if I'm not mistaken, I think her AI is set up in a way where she will always constantly just go on the attack and physically put herself in danger. I remember having to create a party that anticipated where she was going to be on that second turn so I could intercept whatever it was she was going to run into. That's monks with that long-range shockwave attack. I think I had a couple lancers at this point that could jump a pretty sizable distance as well. This battle sucked, and it did not do anything to endear this character to me either.
Oh, no. Yeah. No, not a great fight.
After the fight, we get away, and Ramza and Rapha speak by themselves. Rapha gives us the lowdown. Grand Duke Barrington vies for the throne. He's likely tied up in the church's doings as well. She mentions that she can't leave here without her brother. I do not think he deserves forgiveness, but, we'll keep going. Marach, this is so funny. He sends in a frog puppet, like a living frog that he's using remote controlled as a puppet and can speak to us and probably is an unholy agent of the devil because of, it's speaking. And he tells us both to come to Riovanes. He says, if you don't come, we're going to kill Alma. Rapha, if you run away and don't come, we're going to kill Alma. So you both better come. I would have stomped this fucker to Kingdom Come, but it's not actually Marach. I thought it was, but it's not. It's just like a little decoy. And we learned that whenever it just blows up. It was so funny. What kind of magic does this guy have?
So if he's trying to get taken seriously, He's not doing a great job.
See, on the chat that we have, I said, man, that frog fucking exploded. That sentence will make sense eventually.
Yeah, man, just think of all the hijinks he can get up to with remote control frogs. He could be using his power for good.
It's a stupid joke, but when I was a kid and this scene ever happened, I always just imagined him speaking in Kermit the Frog voice. I couldn't think of it any other way.
Can you do an impression?
No, but I'll give it the old college try. You want to come to Riovanes Castle, or else we're gonna kill Alma. That was terrible.
Got a little southern there.
I did.
I told you not to come to Riovanes Castle. I can't do it either. I can't do it either. This is a total aside. Have either of you seen the memes online? I love when I come across these. Some guy on back when Chat Roulette, I think it was called. The thing where you like get paired up with random people using webcams and you just talk to them.
Yeah.
Some guy does that, and he uses a Kermit puppet. Like the guy's off screen and he's just Kermit, and he's talking to the people and he's like, "Oh, hey there, shorty, how you doing? You wanna come to my place?
I'm looking for baddies." And
he always in some way like makes Kermit reveal a cucumber, like it's just a huge Kermit dick.
I got something for you.
It cracks me up every time. It's so good.
Anytime I see those, I always stop and watch them. They're always funny.
Oh man,
there's a great one where he like he comes in singing "Eye of the Tiger" and he's like, "Yeah, come on and box me, shorty," and like the woman like throws one punch and he pretends to die, and as he's like ascending, like being taken up to heaven, you just see his big old cucumber hanging there. Oh my god, I love it.
Oh shit.
So we get a quick section here that I think is unique to War of the Lions. It's Ovelia. She's praying in the chapel ruins at Zeltenia. And Delita's there too. They're talking a little bit. And Delita blocks an assassination attempt. Someone throws a shuriken. Shuriken?
Shuriken.
Is that the star? Or
Shuriken?
Shuriken.
I thought it was a shuriken.
Yeah.
Shuriken,
I'm thinking of Street Fighter.
Oh,
Yes.
Shuriken. Okay. Ovelia's praying. There's an assassination attempt. Delita blocks it. Pawns of Duke Larg sent by Dice Darg, are you not? So they're getting desperate. They're trying to assassinate just right out in the open. So we have to fight two ninjas. Delita is still OP, but one of these ninjas will just use Phoenix Downs, and I couldn't get to her quick enough to take her down in one hit. So she just kept Phoenix Downing her dead ally, and after like 3 times, I was like, okay, I'm conditioned now. I'm not gonna put up with this. And I just stomp him down.
Yeah, if it wasn't for Delita being as overpowered as he was, I would have felt a lot more rage at this battle, but it wasn't too bad.
He has a great line, like as they come in, he says, "You're quite the troublesome princess, aren't you?" And she says, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to," and he cuts her off, and he says, "I'm glad you're safe." Tone is tough in text, but like I didn't get that he was contemptuous. He's like he's being a little playful, like, "Oh, you're a handful, aren't you?" It's nice.
Mm-hmm.
We finally make it to Riovanes Castle. There's some great music here. It's really pressing. It's somewhat urgent. Grand Duke Barrington is here with his 2 guards, and he's having a chat with Folmarv. It's the one that outed Ovelia as a fake princess, as well as Wiegraf. Wiegraf's in here. Barrington wants to join forces. It's not the Duke, the orders. None of them have the power to rule. Only those with the Zodiac stones do. He has 2. Folmarv's got at least 1. And Folmarv is playing the fool here. He's like, "Oh, the legends. I didn't think you believed in the legends. And the Cardinal's death. No, I thought it was malady." But Barrington makes a crucial mistake. He reveals that he knows a little too much. He knows about the Lucavi. He knows that it wasn't... He knows that it's a cover-up. He knows that the legends, there's more to it. And I'm not clear why this next part happens. He calls in Marach, who brings in Isilud, or comes in with Isilud, which he's Folmarv's son, and it pisses Folmarv off. He slaps him. I didn't understand this part. Like, why did they come in?
Yeah, this was a little lost on me too, so I'm sort of glad that it confused you too.
It'll forever be a mystery. It's unknowable knowledge. Duke Barrington is playing hardball here. He says stones alone, Folmarv says stones alone prove not. Barrington replies, on that, you are correct, but it would be hard to say the same of the scriptures of Germanique. I dare contend they might generate something more of a stir. And this is where Folmarv is done. He tells Wiegraf to get out of here, go deal with Marach, and he becomes frighteningly confident at this point. He says, who is there to oppose us save you feeble-bodied humans? You misjudge the strength of your enemy, Grand Duke Barrington. There will be no sport in killing you. Isolde has no idea what's going on. He's like, Father, what? There's terrific. The lightning and the lighting here, so good. Like the lighting gets a little dim, like the color of rust, the color of like a sky at twilight. There's lightning flashing. It gets dim. Oh my gosh, it's so good. And he uses the power of the Arasite. The camera sort of goes up, the screen goes to black, and we hear a death sound. This is too cool.
You're right. This was one of my favorite scenes for what it was, just from a pure presentation standpoint. I mean, again, we're looking at PlayStation, PSP era graphics here, but when the developers really put the time in for the right lighting effects and just that sort of ominous tone that happens in the scene, it's really, really good.
Was this as dramatic in the PlayStation version, Chris, with the different script?
Yeah, it was. I know the slap happened, right? And you said that was kind of out of nowhere. In the PlayStation version, it came off as the son. They all have different names on PlayStation. The son was being, I don't think insolent is the right word. He was maybe questioning too much, and that's why he got slapped. But yeah, it did the whole thing with the change of the color and then the camera going up and the scream. Yeah, great stuff.
Yeah, too good. And this begins the finale of Chapter 3 and some of the most fuck fights in this game. It begins with a battle at the gate with Marach and Ramza's team. Not too much to write home about there. Alma, meanwhile, is cowering in this like crypt-like basement. She just hears loads of destruction and constant, like, over and over death screams happening above. We don't know what's going on. This, like, wounded knight walks in, like, wanders in, stumbles in. He's beseeching her to get out of here. He's saying that that's not a human up there. That's a beast. He's totally aghast. He dies here also. And he's like, you got to get out of here. And then we get to it. One of the most infamous fights in Final Fantasy history. Ramza, we're asked to make a party. Okay, cool. And then Ramza walks into this room alone. Wiegraf is standing there, corpses of knights just surrounding him. And he says, so, you've come. You're about to fight him mano a mano. And at first, it's just Wiegraf, one-on-one. This is pretty cool. Like, in this game, you don't do one-on-one fights very much. This was pretty dramatic, pretty cool.
Yeah, you can't deny the setup of this, and I remember being very excited because, like you said, we don't do this a lot. The tone's just right. You've seen what Wiegraf's capable of. You know he's got a Zodiac Stone somewhere on him. Is he going to use it? Maybe. Like, there's a lot of unknowns, and it's really cool it's just you two. But then you get to the actual fight, and I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, so what I did in the human Wiegraf fight, these fights are back-to-back. And this is where, you better have made an extra save state. You might need it. What I did in this fight, I spammed Tailwind as much as I could until I was getting 3 turns to his 1, and I just spammed Focus, so my attack was insane. This is, I can't imagine anybody doing this next part genuinely, like without cheesing. And my understanding, I was reading a lot about this online, the consensus I've seen is almost everybody cheeses it in some way. Like, there are multiple strategies, and basically nobody is doing this just, Scout's honor wise. And that's because what happens is after you beat him, he's like, enough of this, and he transforms into Belias. He's like, fuck this shit, transforms into Belias, and he says, I am come. Yeah. And then your team comes in. Your team comes in and he's like, you don't fight alone, fine, I won't either. And he summons these, like, I can't remember if I think it's 3 gargoyle demons. And here we go. This is the fight. My God, I tried this so many times without cheesing it. I tried to be a good boy. I tried to do it genuinely. I don't know. I don't know, dude. This fight is insane. It's the difficulty spike is too high. It's not well designed. Like, I mean, cards on the table. It's not a well thought out, well designed fight. The difficulty spike is absurd. I was level, like I messaged you guys. I was like, am I just wildly under leveled? My party is like 40s to 45. And Chris, I think you were like, no, dude, that's plenty.
Yeah,
and
it's more
I
than
was
enough.
just getting clapped. What was this like? Like when you guys both played this as kids, what was it like getting to this fight?
When I was a kid, I used the action replay. I played the whole game with the action replay. Because and thinking back on it, yeah, if the fight with Gafgarian at the gallows gave me issues, I would have never beaten this one because I never would have thought about spamming Tailwind and then focus so that I could do a couple of attacks one after the other to take him down because it's ridiculous.
Yeah, this fight made me physically ill at how difficult it was for me when I was little. I ended up having to... I almost had to restart my entire playthrough originally. Like, I tried this so many different times, and I could not get past it to save my life. Somehow, though, I did scrape by. Doing all the different buffing to Ramza in the first part of this fight, I did what you did, Rick. I did a lot of the Tailwind to get my speed up. Yeah. I did a lot of focus to get my attack up. That ultimately saved me. I ended up being able to use Ramza in a way where I was able to keep him alive long enough to finally take everything out. So I squeaked by the skin of my teeth. I couldn't even really tell you how. But yeah, it was very painful for me. I do know going into it this time, though, I made it a point to use different classes that either had increased range so I could stay away from those monsters as much as I could. But I also leveraged Lancers Dragoons for the first time, just because their jump ability, depending on how much you charge it, I think it was, they're up in the air and they're off the game board sometimes for a couple turns at a time. So sometimes when certain attacks would happen, they would be safe from those attacks before they land. And there was even some instances where I would send them up in the air. I knew they weren't going to hit their target, but at least they weren't going to take the brunt of an incoming attack. Yes. The one risky maneuver I did is I brought a summoner in that knew white magic. I tried to use the raw power of the summoner and their summons, but what really helped me out was I had them learn white magic and they were able to cast Holy, which nice. I'm Holy was exceptionally powerful. I think they must have been weak to that magic, so that helped. Now, that's not to say that the fight was at all easy. It certainly was not, but that helped me get kind of a leg up. But yeah, it was rough. And I'm kind of glad you said what you said earlier, too, about just the design of this fight. I kind of went back and forth on this. Part of me was thinking maybe this is some expertly crafted battle where you really have to put your time in and think about your moves and stuff. But I don't know. I just keep coming back to they just slapped some really powerful units onto a grid and said, have fun. It'll be great. We promise. Yeah. And there wasn't a lot of forethought into really what that means for you.
No, it sucks. This is, and it's funny because it's followed by another fight that I think is just poorly designed too. But this is infamous. Like this is people get soft locked because the game will prompt you to save. Like after each time, after each of these battles, it's like, do you want to save your game? But what it doesn't tell you is you should maybe do it in a different slot. And if you're only using one slot, you could just be totally underpowered for this fight. And, if you're not well equipped to do the Dragoon jump method, which I've heard is very good, or the Tailwind focus method, you very well could, be screwed. If you've only got one save file, you're going to have to start over. If you might lose a lot of progress if you've got multiple, but yeah, no good. The Evilise Chronicles lets you go right back out to the map if you lose this fight, which, in other circumstances, I might say, well, this is just making it easier for the young bucks. But here it's like, no, that's necessary. Screw that. Screw this fight. But you beat him. You whoop his ass, and that old boy's dead. And we got his Arasite.
One of the reasons why I'm not a huge fan of the whole Arasite summon demon thing is because of how unfair these fights are. You know, you have this one, you have the one with Oogie Boogie earlier in the game, and that one in particularly is brutal because he does that random status effect that can just cast doom on your characters or turn you all into frogs and just, you know, wait for you to die out. And they just have turn after turn after turn after turn until you're able to do anything at all. So by the time that it's your turn, you are at a severe disadvantage.
Yeah, that happens a lot throughout here.
I also wanted to bring up Wiegraf. At this point in the story, at least in the PlayStation 1 version, it seems that Wiegraf is done with wanting to get rid of royalty and just make the world better. At this point in the story, in the PlayStation 1 version, Wiegraf feels like he is looking out for number one. And if he manages to kill Ramza while looking out for himself, then that's great. But it feels like there's a huge difference between how he acts in this part of the game versus how he acted at the beginning of the game.
Oh, totally. He's been corrupted and poisoned by power and the lust for revenge. His whole vision has been totally distorted. It's not, like you said, it's not about taking down the corrupt royalty anymore. It's about getting revenge for Milueda. It's about harnessing this new power. And one has to wonder, is that because of, you know, natural corruption? Like he's just, you know, things have gotten to him so bad? Or is it the influence of the Arasite? Is it poisoning his soul? We don't know. That's not explored, at least not yet. But it's a cool thing to consider. These might be poisonous, destructive objects, which we learn a little bit more about that in the upcoming scene. But it is very cool. And you're right. He doesn't care. He's lost his principles. He's a totally different man. And I have to wonder if his former companions would respect him as much anymore. Probably not. They'd probably be dead, actually. He'd kill him. We get to Alma. She's in the room where Barrington and Folmarv were having their conversation. Corpses everywhere. She can't believe it. There is a constant high undulating sound in the score that just makes this so tense. Isalu dies in Alma's arms. He finally admits that the Arasite is a blight. He finally sees the church for what it is. He takes out his own Arasite and he says, you know, this is for you, Alma. Which turns out to be good, because Folmarv comes in, he just entered, and he's like, yeah, I'm going to kill you, you know, just don't resist, you're done. Until the Arasite resonates with her, and suddenly he's like, oh, okay, you're coming with me. Like, no, your life is fine now. Like, you could be useful to me. And they leave. And here comes, one, a really well-written scene, I think, and two, another fuck-ass fight in this game. It's Rapha confronting the Grand Duke on the rooftops. He says, you owe me your life, you ungrateful wretch. You would not stand here today were it not for me. And he mentions, like, you were in the rubble without me before I took you in. And Rapha responds, oh, I recall quite clearly. It was after you burnt our village, was it not? Shortly after you murdered my mother and father and everybody else. And his response is, I mean, he says some other things. It's so foul, but so effective. She pulls out her sword, he pulls out a gun, and he dares her to try him. He's like, what? Step up. And she can't. You know, she can't do it. Why? Why can't she do it? Well, one, he says, you can't draw your sword on your father, which is him. And he says, the flesh remembers, Rapha. It remembers fear, cold and trembling, but it will not always be so. In time, your fear will blossom into another flower, and I shall have that one as well. This guy's gotta fucking go. This, like, there was some language around this before that implied there was some sexual assault, but, like, this sealed the deal. Like, it's a common metaphor, right? Virginity being compared to a flower, and all of the ways you can spin that into taking a virginity. And he says it here, you know, it'll blossom into another flower, and I'll have that one as well. He raped her. Disgusting. This guy he's got to go. He's got to go.
Yeah, it's terrible. I can't remember the PlayStation 1 version in terms of how the dialogue went, but I never picked up on that specifically when I was younger.
That's not on the PlayStation 1 version at all. It's basic as it gets. You killed my family. It's like, oh, you weren't supposed to know that. Die.
That's right. I think I remember it now. So yeah, experiencing this in the War of the Lions version, my first initial thought was he's going to try to harness her anger into something more useful, turn her into, I don't know, a child soldier or something crazy like that. But the more I sat and thought about it, I came to the same conclusion, and it was just kind of an immediate, like, one, wow, I can't believe the story would even hint at going there, and two, I cannot wait to stab this motherfucker in the face.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we don't get to. Marach is hiding nearby. He hears this, and he finally understands. He's like, oh, okay, Rapha was right. The Duke's like, don't move. He does. So he goes to shoot Rapha. Marach jumps in front of her. He takes the bullet. This is where our crew shows up. We're going to take him down, but we don't get the satisfaction because who else but Marquis Elmdor sneaks up behind him, grabs him by the throat, and just fucking throws that mug right off the roof. Just hulks him out of here. And he falls to his death. It's not as slow as he deserved, but I laughed out loud seeing him just pick him up and whip him off just yeet him out of there.
Very satisfying.
It's pretty funny. It turns out he wants the Arasite. You know, everybody's after this thing, and he's like, yeah, you're going to give that to me now. And you have to do a battle here. This sucks. This battle is terribly designed. You have to protect Rapha. But the thing is that the Marquis and his two goons, Celia and Letty, are really, really fast, and they can all just get up, and if they all attack Rapha first turn, that's it. You're done. Game over. So, like, what I ended up having to do, and also, like, I can't remember, I think if Chris or Nomad said it, but Rapha's AI just isn't the best, and she never runs where you need her to because her priority is casting her spell, and that doesn't exactly lead to her safety all the time. It doesn't encourage her living. So she dies. Like, she died all the time for me. What I ended up having to do, I resorted to Ninja Ramza, which is really fast, right? Ninja's fast, dual wielding flails. Is that what those are called? The spiky balls on chains? Flails. Yep. Yeah, I was Ninja Ramza dual wielding flails, and I was able to rush the Marquis like just enough. And then I moved a couple of my other guys out there as decoys. And you don't have to kill him; you just get his health down quite a bit. But that did it for me.
So there's a difference on the PlayStation version. Rapha, if she dies, you don't get the game over, and you only have to get somebody low enough on health. It doesn't matter who. It doesn't matter if it's the Marquis or the two helpers. Because I was surprised at how quickly I got through that fight, because I just ganged up on one of the helpers and the fight's over.
Oh, interesting. I don't think it's like that in War of the Lions. Nomad, am I wrong?
I'm not entirely sure. Oddly enough, I took the exact same tactic you did with a Ninja Ramza. I went right after Elmdor, and I kind of drew the other two off to the side, if you will. So I did exactly what you did, so I can't speak to the alternative, but I do. Chris is correct. I do remember on the PlayStation 1 version, I had a ninja. I would target one of the dancers. As soon as they got down to critical, fight was over. As long as you have a unit that's either as fast or slightly faster than them, you can get out of this pretty quick, but it's you got to have the right timing.
This fight sucks, and coming so soon after the Belial fight, which also sucks. By the way, I think I forgot to say this, but because I was spamming Tailwind and Focus just so much, and those stats carry over into the Belial fight, I was able to move immediately. I had a double hit on. Yeah, I had double hit on, so I hit him twice, and I ended up beating him in one turn. I one-shotted him because one punch from me did 936 damage.
The real One Punch Man.
Dude, straight up Two-Punch Man. I just imagine how funny this would be, like in the fiction, Ramza just walking up to him and going Saitama and just wham, and he's done. It's so good.
Yeah, I would not have believed that if you wouldn't have sent us that screenshot too, by the way. Like, that is ridiculous.
I was so done with it. I did not want to beat that legitimately. It sucks. Jeez Louise. Anyways, the Marquis teleports out of there. Like everybody in this game just teleports everywhere. He leaves and he reveals that he knew about Cuchulainn and all of the Lucavi and everything. And he's like, well, if you want my Arasite, you'll just have to chase me to Limberry. And he gets out of there. But speaking of Arasite, it seems that Rapha's is resonating with her. As she's holding a dying Marach in her arms, she's begging for him not to die, wishing for him not to die. What I love about this is Ramza is shocked. He's like, I don't know, like he's thinking about all the Arasite we've seen so far and how it corrupts people. So he's thinking like, oh shit, like this is going to corrupt her soul. She's going to turn into a Lucavi. The music here has just a little bit of foreboding, of a foreboding character to it. Just a little bit, enough like one off ingredient in an otherwise delicious meal. Just enough to make you question what's about to happen. I say it again, this is one of Final Fantasy's best soundtracks. Like straight up, top 3. Easy. But of course it doesn't corrupt her. It resurrects Marach. I can't remember, I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, but I love how intensely diorama-esque and theatrical, this whole thing is, like makes it feel like a stage play. The scene changes happen with the camera like moving away, the screen fades to black, things like that. So good. I really love it, man. This era of Final Fantasy, I'll take it any day of the week over, the theatrics of 16 and 15, stuff like that. Too good, man.
Games like this put the fantasy in Final Fantasy, and what I mean by that is there's just something very, very charming and something very mystical about it all, and the visuals in this game really lend themselves to that. It's back when a time when Final Fantasy truly was about just good writing, storytelling, and just putting you in almost a whimsical kind of a place, even though this particular world we're in is pretty dark.
Yeah, I don't think Final Fantasy's ever going to get back to that. This whole era in particular, even though I love Final Fantasy VI, and I think it's toss up between 6 and Tactics as my favorite. It's so different between what was on Super Nintendo and the original Nintendo and what came after with 10 and 12 and then everything after that. That era of the PlayStation, I don't know if it has to do with the technical limitations and the stories they wanted to tell and how they were able to get them across, but it just, they don't make games like this anymore.
I think us waxing about the days gone by, I think we're going to get labeled unks by the little kids today.
That's right, man. I'm perfectly fine with that. I got gray on my beard.
Bunch of unks.
Yeah, well, it's our choice whether we want to be the fun unks or not, and I choose to be fun, so bring it on, kids. Gather around while I tell you the story of a fantasy that was not but final.
Right.
Yeah, fun unk. Yeah, I put the unk in funk.
That's a good one.
Funky unk. Oh man, that would be a great funk band cover name. Like a bunch of older guys playing funk covers, Funky Unk.
Hey, I'll learn how to play an instrument if we're serious about this.
All I need to do is spend $1,500 on a good electric drum kit, and we're golden.
Nice.
Yeah, dude, there you go. I'll pull the saxophone back out. I'll buy one of those horribly projecting $300 mouthpieces. We can go to town. Ramza returns to the room where Folmarv used his Arasite. The corpses are still absolutely everywhere, and among them is the Arasite in question. And you get like a text over scene, like the text is appearing over the scene like it's a previous conversation. Ramza says, I'd thought Arasite is a product. No, he says, I'd thought Arasite a product not of godly fashion, but an issue of hands far fouler, a gateway of sorts for Lucavi into our world. And then Marach responds, I know not by whose hands it came to be, but I do not think its evil inherent. I believe it is the wielder who gives power to its shape. This is where him and Rapha join and promptly take a seat on the bench. I have mixed feelings about this. Like it's a total fantasy trope, right? What's in your heart is how it will respond. You've got to have a heart of good. I don't know. I kind of have mixed feelings about them putting this in there rather than making the Arasite like a holy object revered by the church that is actually something more sinister. That would kind of fall into the like adjacent to a Gnostic idea right? Like the god that we worship is actually an evil god, like an imposter. It would kind of similar if they did that, but I don't know. They went the Saturday morning anime route. I don't dislike it. I'm just like, kind of wish it didn't do that. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Or am I just blabbling? Blabbling? There you go. Am I just babbling?
I don't think so. When this happened to me, it felt like it was just used purely as a plot device to be able to allow Rapha to revive her brother in what could be arguably a pretty sentimental scene given what we learned about them and their upbringing and the tragedy that kind of surrounds them. But that's really all I personally saw it as, was just a device so that could happen. I didn't really care for this much myself either. It seemed a little too tropey in that sense. There's something to be said, sure, about some inherent object being whatever the wielder wants it to be based on what it is that's in their heart. But to me, this opens other story implications, like there has to have been somebody in the church that was good of heart that probably had the aura sight at one point. Did they ever use it? Whatever became of that? It just gave me more questions than it did anything else. But I also feel like, and I could be misremembering, but I don't think they really dive into the idea that this particular these items are not evil inherent. I think it's mentioned here and forgotten a little bit as the story goes on, so we don't really do much with it anyway, if I recall.
That's a bit of a bummer.
I don't know how to feel about it working depending on what's in your heart. Because if it opens a lot of doors for a lot of possibilities to a lot of questions that we're never going to get answers. Like, for example, okay, let's say if you want ultimate power, it'll corrupt you and a demon will come out, right? Which will explain the Lucavi and Saint Ajora's story. So the Zodiac Braves killed the Lucavi. Does that mean that the Zodiac Braves took the stones from the Lucavi, used their powers with their heart of good to kill them, or were there 12 brave knights that fought the Lucavi, came out on top, showed the stones as a sign of we win, and they take the stones as symbolism of whatever?
I think, if I'm remembering the tale correctly, I think they used the Arasite, the 12 disciples, the Zodiacs. They used them to transform into warriors of good to kill the Lucavi. But that's also like, you know, that's akin to the "this is my body, this is my blood" in Christian tradition, and how, like, you know, the vast majority of priests in the world, or at least in the US, don't believe that transmutation is actually happening. Like, they don't believe you're actually eating the body of Christ. It's just symbolic.
Right.
And I think that's what the church thinks here. Like, the legends say that it turns you into, like, you know, they use the Arasite as like, and became great warriors. But I think they see it as like, not an allegory, but just a story, you know, and now it's just symbolic.
Right. And I don't want to get into spoilers, but, you know, the stones, I don't know, like, they, in the grand scheme of things, if I'm remembering things right, they're just for creating boss fights. I mean, I don't really want to get into, like, the whole deep thing of it, because I'm probably going to spoil stuff that we're a little bit far away from.
I'm looking forward to seeing it. And with that, we get one final bit of text that says, "Frustration with the stalemate growing, the Order of the Northern Sky recalled its full force from the war's now expansive front. They marched on Fort Bessalat with plans to turn the tide of the war." And that brings us into Chapter 4, In the Name of Love. Opening up Chapter 4 with an 80s hair metal band, 80s hair metal song title. Incredible. Great choice.
Extremely apropos. I don't know why. I just felt like saying that.
As CC DeVille on guitars.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that actually is the name of a song, isn't it? I'm sure it is.
Yeah, it has to be.
It's It's too 80s to not be. I don't know.
It's called Pride in the Name of Love by U2.
Oh, really?
That's the one I was thinking of.
Great. We're not going to play U2 on here because we'll get copyright struck. So we're going to do just a little bit of Chapter 4 in today's episode. Before we do either of you, like you're rolling pretty deep in the game, do you have any formations or classes that you're sticking with for the rest of the game, for the rest of the time? I told myself I wouldn't. I'm grinding to get Ramza as a Dark Knight. At the time of recording this, I just need to get the Black Mage mastered, and then I'll have it. Aiming to get there. I have another class that's, just mastering stuff to get the Onion Knight. I've got like 6 mastered right now. I need more to get that stronger. I'm trying to think what else. A chemist. I mean, chemist is low-key the best healer in the game. So, like, they're pretty much always in my party. I have to resort more often than I'd like 2, sometimes 3 story characters, because these random battles, man, I was complaining about it to you guys. I just keep running into like chocobo death squads where it's like 3 chocobos, 1 red chocobo that casts meteor, the other 3 chocobos are just constantly healing everybody, and then on top of them, 2 of those Cthulhu demons and 2 Marlboros, 2 cowboy killers, and like all of these at once, and it's like, how do I win, man? They're just like bodying me, so I have to use the strong story characters instead of my homegrown heroes, and I don't like that, But I like my children dying even less, so do what you gotta do.
At this point, I'm running Ramza as a ninja, which is insanely overpowered. I take out most units in one attack with the double flails. Running a dragoon, a samurai, which sucks. The samurai is really not great, so I'm probably going to get rid of him. Agrias, I'm training as a thief to get the movements, and I have Mustadio for some reason. I really should just get rid of him because he's not great. And you get a character later on in this chapter that makes Agrias completely worthless, but maybe having 2 of the same wouldn't be so bad. I got to keep playing around with my teams.
Oh my God, you're telling me. I'm so sad that she gets kind of obviated, but yeah, that newcomer is he's real good.
Oh yeah.
What about you, Nomad? You rocking any good builds?
At least ones that work for me for the time being. Like what I've kind of settled into is kind of just my tried and true, what gets the job done. I'm doing the same thing as Chris to start with. I've got Ramza as a ninja. It's just so ridiculously good. The physical damage plus the speed boost that he gets, the dual wield, it's perfect. Like, I wanted to keep him as a monk, but it just seemed weird having Ramza, the protagonist, use his fists. Like, I feel like he just needs a sword of some kind in his hands. So, well, Chris is rocking flails. I'm rocking ninja blades at this point. But I also have a summoner. I like having a summoner just because I never used a summoner really when I played the game the first time, so it's kind of new. But I also have the summoner learn black magic, so they're my magic dealing, just walking human of destruction. It's great. But I also have a monk in there as well, and I'm also messing around with a time mage a little bit more than I did before.
Oh, they're great.
I don't think they're going to be a mainstay, really, but I really enjoy using their time abilities, giving my characters haste, slowing down the enemy. Some of the story battles, that seems to have helped me out a little bit more. And then a shout out to the samurai, too. I love what the samurai does. The whole idea with their job class is you have to have other samurai swords in your inventory, and their ability is calling forth the spirits within that particular blade, which can either heal or do damage to a radius around them. Like, I like the idea, but it requires you to put them in harm's way a lot, and depending on the blade, the rarer blades give you the better abilities. Rarer meaning you're not going to find very many of them, and there's a small chance the blade may actually break when you use it. And I don't know about you two, but I don't like losing my items, so that risk reward to me is not really worth it, but I love the concept.
That's why I'm having issues with the samurai, because I don't have the blades, and the samurai doesn't really do a whole lot of damage either. I basically regressed it back into an archer so that I can unlock it as a ninja. I think I might just go bard and see what that's like, because I've never had a bard in my party.
Yeah, I will say the one job I really want to mess with at some point. I never played with them when I was younger. I think they call them calculators in the PlayStation 1 version. Arithmetician in the War of the Lions. I couldn't tell you how they work. All I know is people talk about them as like just a late game powerhouse. They've got this skill set that can either damage or heal any unit on the field. There's no MP costs, but there's literally some sort of mathematics involved with how this all works. I want to explore this and figure out what the hell it's all about.
Too complicated, too much work, too much math. I'm not doing it.
Just do homework with your tactics.
Nothing wrong with that. But I have seen people on YouTube, for instance, like just create these insane builds where this arithmetician just walks out into the field and just decimates everything. The prospect of it's very alluring to me, but that might depend on how much work's involved. So I'll report back next episode.
So thankfully, Alma wasn't among the casualties during all of these events, but unfortunately, they've taken her away, and it was likely Folmarv. Who knows where? Marach knows where. Mulland, the seat of the church's power, under the seat of High Confessor Marcel. Ramza tells Marach what we already know, but he reminds the viewers because the viewer might be a child or an adult with school or work that can't play straight through a game. He says, I do not think their High Confessor knows the true power of the stones. Consider this. Wiegraf did not know their secret until he had struck his bargain with Belias, and by the look of things, Isilud died fighting the Lucavi. By inciting this war, the Church hopes to broaden its powers, but the High Confessor only wants the Zodiac Stones for their symbolic power, to sway the minds of the people. We've already talked on this, so we could keep going. Before anything, though, Ramza needs to see Delita. The Church and the Knights Templar manipulate Delita from behind the scenes. With luck, he can shed some light on who this Folmarv is and what he wants. We're finally going to reunite with our friend. Meanwhile, Orran meets back up with Sid, tells him what went down, etc., etc. He doesn't know much more than we do. There's a couple of quick random battles, nothing really to write home about, da-da-da-da-da. And finally, we get to Zeltenia. Outside, we get a quick little scene with Ovelia and Delita, with another grass-blowing scene. And we've talked about the symbolism. It's pretty plain, right? Grass is of the earth, transcends class. The ability to do it, to actually finally learn to buzz the grass, is a sort of the symbol of Ovelia's pain of being a noble, masquerading as a noble, being quelled, all of that. Pretty plain to see. But then we get a cutscene of Ramza. He's praying at a church, and Delita comes in. He says,
A heretic at prayer in a church. Passing bold, Ramza.
Pretty good. I like Delita a lot. And finally, Ramza gets to ask Delita plain.
Why has the High Confessor planted you amongst Goltana's men?
He answers,
I see no harm in telling you. Duke Goltana and Count Orlando. I am to assassinate them.
Dun dun dun. Did you see this coming? Were you guys like, holy shit, when he said this?
Oh yeah, 100%. I didn't see this at all. I knew Delita was playing a game, and maybe this is all part of the game, but I had no idea this was going to be something that he was going to do anything with. I was very taken aback by this.
No, I don't think so. I don't think I was surprised. Honestly,
I wasn't.
With how broken he was after Titra's death, I wouldn't put anything past him.
Yeah, he was very vulnerable, very raw, ripe for manipulating. I wasn't thinking that this was going to happen, but yeah, I'm with you, Chris. When it did, I was like, oh yeah, okay, this makes all the sense in the world, sure. Because we knew he was with the church, and the church wants to stop at nothing for power. So yeah, sure, of course he is. He's going to assassinate him. That's his task. And on that note, we're going to leave this episode on a cliffhanger, and that's about where we're going to start for next time. We're going to get through the end of the game, obviously, next time. We're also going to talk side quests and side characters, which I think are mostly unique to War of the Lions. We'll talk through them. It's all in Chapter 4. I've got all of them except for one because the dungeon to get there, I cannot beat it. I lose every time very quickly. It stinks, but we'll talk about all of them. And we'll finish up this game, this terrific, terrific, terrific game. If you stuck around this long, thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate you listening, and I hope you loved the show today. I've also got to thank, as always, Chris and Nomad for joining me and for the engaging conversation. What's new at the Retro Wildlands? What's new at a novel console and consoles and stuff? Anything new going on since we last spoke?
At least over in the Retro Wildlands, not too much. I think I'd mentioned last episode that I'm currently working on an episode. At the time of this writing, I'm putting together an episode where I'm counting down my top 10 favorite scary video games. It's been recorded. I'm just in the throes of editing, so it'll probably be finished the next time that we all get together, so I'm excited for that. I also can't remember if I mentioned last episode or not, but on our new website, theretrowildlands.com, I've taken to writing some mini reviews on video games that I've played but aren't necessarily going to have a full-blown podcast on, mostly some newer stuff. Most recently, I played to completion a short game called Silent Hill: The Short Message, which was a free-to-play game for, I think you just had to subscribe to PlayStation Plus, any one of their tiers, and I think you can download it for free. I wanted to play a spooky game for Halloween season, of course, and I was really taken by this game in a good way. It certainly wasn't my favorite Silent Hill experience by any stretch, but it definitely had a story and a message that really resonated with me. So I wrote about a 5-6 minute read blog on it on our website, so I'd encourage people, if they're at all interested in that, go to theretrowildlands.com and check it out. But other than that, it's been business as usual. Me and my boy Didi are just wandering around the Wildlands and seeing what's next.
Very nice. Yeah, it's a great time for Silent Hill fans.
Big time.
How about you, Chris? What's new at a novel consoles and stuff?
Well, same news as always on a novel console. We're coming back soon. I do have to sit down and record an episode soon because I played the demo that's out on Steam for the Marvel beat 'em up, and it is incredible. So I really want to give my thoughts on that. So I'll be recording maybe another 40-minute episode and putting it up on the feed for people to enjoy. As for consoles and stuff, if you have any video games you want to sell, anything at all, especially now that we're so close to Christmas, shoot me a message at consoleandstuff@gmail.com. Show me what you have. I'll make you an offer. If we reach a deal, then I'll pay for shipping. You send me your stuff, I'll send you money for it, and you can spend on money on whatever else you would like to spend it on. It could be more video games, it could be dates, it could be car payments, it could be whatever you want. But yeah, if you got video games, I'm buying them.
Yeah, and check out Chris's new book, The Art of the Deal. Alrighty, thank you, fellas. Go check out their stuff. You can find links to them in the description. By the way, for my Apple Podcast listeners, I realized that links just aren't working properly, and I checked out a bunch of other podcasts, and it seems like it's doing it there too, at least on the web page. So if that's you, I apologize. You can find them all the same by doing a Google search, It's a little more inconvenient, but what are you going to do? But anyways, you can find links to Nomad and Chris's stuff, Chris and Nomad's stuff, in the episode description. You can check them out there. You can also find links to Pixel Project Radio's stuff, to our free Discord server that I hope you join, to our socials media, Blue Sky, Instagram, all that good stuff. You can check us out there. If you feel so inclined, you can check out the Patreon, patreon.com/pixelprojectradio, if you want to give a couple bucks and get some extra episodes in return, as well as our schedule 2 months out in advance. Check that out there. My name is Rick. As always, I'm your host. We are signing off for now. Take care.